Clipping cat paws is a controversial topic, or so I've heard. So clipping them, like taking normal clippers and regularly clipping the ends of the nails, is not controversial. Everyone should be doing that. If anything, a lot of people don't do it, and they let their claws keep their cats keep their claws really sharp because they never train their cat to be okay with handling their paws. So if they try to clip them, the cat will freak out. I think it's on the owner. They should always just get them used to it. But the thing that is really controversial is declawing, which is when they remove the entire claw in a surgical procedure. And people used to do that a lot. They do it way less. A lot of vets are against it and won't do the procedure now. A lot of foster groups and things, if you adopt a cat from them, you have to sign a thing that says you will never declaw that cat. And if they find out that you did, like, they're allowed to get the cat back from you. They have that fully in their contracts when you adopt. Yeah, most people are completely against it. They actually used to do that. Some people still do. It's so bad. Not to get too graphic, but they don't just remove the nail surgically. They remove a chunk of bone at the end as well that the nail comes out from. Because if that bone is not removed, then those cells that produce the nail bed still exist, and you know, they still have that coming out. So you are literally going into the end of their little fingertips, essentially, and removing bone. It is horrible. It is so bad. It is so bad. Yeah, they're literally like cutting off their fingies. It's I don't know. They make it sound like it's so much better than it is. And as people understood, and there was more information of what it actually is over time, they're like, oh, and a lot of people are against it now. I had one family member who still declawed a cat a couple years ago, and I was like furious. Thankfully, that cat didn't grow up with any issues. Some of them do. Sometimes they have issues literally with incontinence. They'll actually, like, it's bad. It's bad. Sometimes they get the genuine health issues or behavioral issues from it. And that cat turned out okay. But, like, I gave this family member the research. It was an extended family member, so I didn't even know they were going to do that. I just found out later. I was like, what? So I gave them the research, and they were like, oh my God. They just had no idea. They thought it was truly just removing the nail, and they didn't know about the potential side effects because they had never encountered it in the past, so they thought it was fine, you know? So I was like, well, it's not. You got lucky, but it's not. So they understand now. Cats can't take litter properly without claws? Yeah. They have a lot of bathroom issues sometimes, so. Yup. So, I mean, the thing to do is just, like, be a good cat owner and, you know, handle your cat. Pay attention to your cat. Touch your cat's paws so they don't freak the fuck out every time you do it. And be able to clip their claws. And if you have a cat who's a problem and you really can't clip the ends, then you take them to the vet regularly or to a groomer. Or have a groomer come in. You can actually, like, have these mobile ones that will come by and they do it. And if you're not willing to spend that money, then you have to deal with them clawing your shit up because you're a bad owner. You're a bad owner. Sorry. That's just what it means, man. That's what it means. All right, so people ask questions. I'm gonna scroll back up. Someone said, do you train your cats? Yeah. They can actually, I have to have food in my hand, right? Treats in my hand, and I have to be standing near where their food is, or standing up in a way where they think I have a treat in my hand. They won't do it otherwise. But I can look at them and tell them to sit, and they'll sit. I could say speak, and they will meow. And then they will do wave. If I wave my hand at them and say wave, they'll pick up their paws and kind of wave briefly. It's so good. It's so good. They're very well behaved. You just trick them. Yeah, I'll stand there with my hand pinched, like, imagine Italian pinched fingies, but facing down toward the cat. If I do that, they think I have a treat. So they'll just do it. I love it. You said you got your 2 cats at 7 months, and I specifically play with their bellies and paws a lot when I first got them. Now they don't care. Yeah, exactly. You just get them used to it. And even if you didn't get them super young, so you can't, like, do it when they're little babies, you can still get a cat used to that kind of stuff, you know, very slowly. The thing is, you just have to be super patient. You can't, like, they're not like dogs where, like, they'll pick up on a new thing in a day if it's something that they're feeling negatively toward. So, yeah. You said you wrap your cat in a kitty burrito and clip the nails that way? Yeah. Yeah, it's one way to do it. I had to do that for this one cat that I fostered. But not for his nails. It was to, I could do his nails. I could hold him there and, like, grab his, basically back at his elbow and then do the clipping. Like, that was okay. But I had to give him medicine. I had to deworm him. That was the one, I think I told the story a while back, but he had a tapeworm. And I was fostering him, and he was so much skinnier than his brother, who he lived in the same enclosure as up until I fostered them. So there was no reason for his brother to be a little bit fat and for him to be so skinny unless he had something. So I like really kept an eye on him and found out he had a tapeworm. And I was like, oh my God, okay, we got to get him dewormed immediately, right? So I get this medication, and the way we give it to him is it's one of those liquid ones, right? So it's in this plastic syringe with just like a hole at the end. Put it in their mouth, squeeze it slowly, and the cat just goes nom, 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 because they have no choice. Right? Now imagine holding a cat and trying to shove a piece of plastic in their mouth and then slowly like leaving it in there for like 10-20 seconds. It's just really difficult. And so he would freak out. So he was the nicest cat ever. He wanted my attention all the time. But yeah, so I had him wrapped up, and I would like put the syringe in his mouth and, you know, squeeze the medicine in, and he would sit there and growl at me. He would completely growl. And he was the sweetest cat. He had no aggression. He wanted to lick my face all the time. He was so affectionate, climb on my shoulders and everything. And that same really sweet cat would growl. He'd be like, I was like, I'm sorry, man. So I'd just wrap him up and do it as fast as I could, you know, and then let him go. And then as soon as I let him go, he acted like nothing happened. He'd be like, oh, yay, you know, we'd hang out. And I'm like, well, don't be so annoying, you know? One of you said, I'm always paranoid. I have worms inside me. I think you would know over time. Actually, you might not know. By the time you start to exhibit symptoms of having worms as a human, it's usually really gruesome. Like, you've got them coming out of you at that point. A lot of time, a lot of people don't realize it before that because they don't inspect everything that comes out of them. You know what I mean? So they don't see some of the other signs. Yeah, it's gross. It's gross. I've had a couple friends embarrassingly... I say embarrassingly, like, they were embarrassed. I was just like, it's normal shit. But, you know, no pun intended. But they would, I had a couple friends go, like, backpacking, and they would, get parasites. A couple of them got parasites. And I was like, you know, I'm all for backpacking and going on cheaper trips, but don't do the $3 a day in whatever third world country drinking all the water unboiled kind of thing. I'm like, dude, what are you... This is how the people here live. Yeah, and they all have worms. You come from a different place. They're also more resilient to certain things because they live with that shit, and you don't. So, like, what are you... You're not built diff because you traveled there, okay? I don't know, man. I'm like, they overestimate themselves. Someone said, how do you confirm a tapeworm? Okay. For a cat, for an animal, for a tapeworm, for a human, doesn't matter. It's almost always the same. Tapeworm is one really big long boy, and he's got these little segments of his body. Okay? Think of sausage links, right? Toward the end of his tail, he's got sausage links. You're eating, not my problem. So at the end of the tail, where those little sausage link looking segments of the body are, the very end of it, they actually pinch it off. It pinches off like it becomes its own separate thing. It's a little larva, okay? So it's reproducing asexually. It's actually sending out itself, right? And that little thing will come out of you. And wherever that little thing ends up, if it ends up in another animal, it becomes a big old tapeworm. If it doesn't end up in anything, it just dies. So if you have a pet, especially a cat, it's easy to figure out the cats, where, you know, you're scooping the litter or whatever, you look at it, and you see, it looks like a grain of rice. It's like this little long whitish pellet, right? And if you see this little oblong white thing, you can look at it and be like, oh, is that a tapeworm larva? Best thing you can do is get tweezers, whatever, if you don't want to handle it. Or the whole chunk, whatever, you know, put it in a bag and then take it to a vet and be like, is this a tapeworm? Like, what is this? But, you know, the more big the tapeworm gets, the more that sort of thing will happen. And what's really nasty is if it comes out of the cat fresh, if you catch it before it's dried out, it will actually move around. It looks like a tiny little nematode the way it works. It's like a round little thing, and then one end of it will extend and get like a little pointy, right? It like reaches out and it moves. And then after it's like been sitting out for a little bit, it dries out and it's basically dead at that point unless something else eats it. But Yep. Lovely like maggots. Smaller and less... They don't look as gross, actually, because they don't really look like bugs. They don't really look like worms. They don't look like something horrific. It just looks like a grain of rice that can move around, right? Like it's actually, of all visual parasites, it's probably like the least offensive to look at. I know it sounds gross, but when you actually see them, they're really not bad. It's just a little extendy boy. So it's very I don't know. It's not so bad to me. There are other things that look worse. There are other things that look way worse, but those things are just little. So it's not so bad. Sometimes you can actually see the end of the entire tapeworm coming out of the animal. That's when you know that thing is huge and you really got to get them dewormed. I mean, you have to do it no matter what, but that's stage 2. And I have, unfortunately, having worked in cat rescue, seen that before, and it's kind of horrifying. And the thing is, if you can't, like, take it out. You can't do that. It'll just break off. Yeah, don't pull it out like a magic trick. Yeah, it's also attached, so you don't want to pull it on either way, even if it doesn't detach the end of it. But also, if you do touch it, it'll go back in. I know it's so nasty, but the moment it like senses any danger on the outside, it goes whoop, right in there. It's so gross. But I mean, it's good to know what that is. So if you ever, it just looks like a piece of spaghetti. It doesn't even look disgusting. The fact that it's moving is what's freaky, but like it literally just looks like spaghetti. So it's not that bad. Yeah, back in I go. But yeah, good to know these things though, because it's probably one of the most common things your pets can get, and you don't want to see that ever. And if you do see it, you want to know what it is. Although, if you see a tail hanging out, you're gonna probably be really concerned. But when people see the little pellets that look like grains of rice, they often don't know what it is and they don't get it checked. They're like, oh, maybe it's something they ate, you know, and a lot of people don't know about that. So the tapeworm gets to like a bad point before they actually get it taken care of, and that's, you know, not so great. Not so great. Perfect time to join stream. Yup. Welcome on in. Welcome on in. I don't know. It's little things like this. I like to, whenever someone brings it up, I like to say these things, because if you didn't know, you know, it's just good to know this stuff. Everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people have pets. It's a common thing that can happen to pets. If you don't know it, and then your cat ends up with a tapeworm for way too long, it's not good. It can lead to other health issues down the line. So, you know, it's good to know. That's why I like talking about these things.